Hi there. Welcome to Belt Friends. My name's Casey Hutchinson. I'm the president of Empire Rubber and Supply Company, also a member of NIBA. For those of you who are picking up on the podcast and getting to know that one, today's guest is Tom Wujek, president and chief executive officer of Flexco, also 2014 NIBA president. And I understand you also remain active with PTDA too, not just NIBA.
Yeah, I'm involved with them as well.
Okay, I went digging. I wanted to get that one out there. And for those who don't know that acronym, and I'll go back on NIBA too, National Industrial Belting Association, of which we're both a part of, and Power Transmission Distributors Association. I'll leave that one to you. I'm not a part of that action. Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Thank you. I'm so glad you were able to make it out. Tom trekked out here from Illinois. And I'd like to say it was all for me, but I know that's not true. But
mostly for you.
Oh, thank you. I'll take that. Welcome. Well, I'm going to start off with getting you to talking. And this is where you tell us about yourself and where you grew up and your family and education before we get into the nuts and bolts of our industry.
Perfect. So I grew up in north central Illinois on a farm. My dad was a World War II vet. When he came back from the Pacific, he met my mom, and they got married in 1950 and proceeded to have 10 kids.
Oh, my.
And my dad was a farmer. He had pigs. He grew corn and soybeans like anybody in north central Illinois. And I was the last of his 10 children. So I have 9 brothers and sisters.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
How far away is the oldest to you?
20 years span. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. Baby boomers.
Yes.
Up the wazoo.
Absolutely. They boomed.
Yeah. So on the farm.
Yeah.
How long were you out there?
So I grew up until I went to college. It was 18 years, and I decided I didn't want to stay in small town Illinois. So I went to University of Illinois and got out of the little town I grew up in and went to a somewhat bigger city.
Yeah.
And during that time, I had a brother-in-law who worked at this little manufacturing company in the suburbs of Chicago. And he called me and said, "Hey, I know they hire a bunch of college kids for internships. Why don't you send a resume in?" And I did, and it was Flexco. And
not so little at the time.
That's a different story.
Okay.
But yeah, so he got me connected, and my brother-in-law worked there for literally a 12-month period, and it just happened to be during that time. And so I was studying engineering. I thought this is great way to get some real experience. And so that was the summer of 1990 that I started there.
Okay.
And just summer internship, worked there for 3 months. And had a great experience, but decided I had bigger plans. I was never going back to that place, and went back to school, had another internship set up with Motorola at the time, which 1990 and 1991, that was when Motorola was peaking. Big Chicago company, very renowned, early cell phone manufacturer and a lot of other equipment. And so I had an internship with them, and their peak happened about 1990. So in 1991, their business started to downturn. The first thing they cut were all the internships that they had committed to. And so I was out of a job. The internship I had interviewed for and got set up was no longer available. And so I was scrambling a little bit. So I called Flexco back and said, "Hey, do you have any openings for me?" And they did. And so I never intended to go back to that second summer, but I did, and got involved in a couple projects that led to a permanent job offer. And the rest is history.
So when you started there, was that ground floor? I mean, were you turning out fast, or what were you doing there?
I was, so I had an engineering, I'd finished my engineering degree, but it was really working in our factory, a combination of manufacturing engineering, a little bit of design engineering, but literally working with our factory operators, doing some documentation, some quality assurance work. And that's how I started.
Oh, rock on.
Yeah.
Dang. So there was a step missed there, because you mentioned that your brother-in-law got you involved with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're supposed to tell me about yourself when you got married. Don't leave Carrie out of this.
I know. So that's another whole part of the story, because that first summer, Carrie, who was my wife, she was also a summer intern at Flexco that first summer.
Oh, okay.
And the great part of the story is I worked in our manufacturing planning department. So these were the folks who scheduled all the work that goes through the different work centers in our factory. I was working in that department, and she worked in the front desk as Flexco's receptionist that summer. And 1990, the way everybody communicated were fax machines. Flexco had one fax machine. It happened to be behind the receptionist at our front desk.
Oh, wow.
And so the department I was working in, we also had a small division out in California, and they would fax production reports back and forth every day. And so I was the first to volunteer to take the daily fax up to that cute receptionist. And it gave me an opportunity to meet her and chat every day and see her beautiful smile. And so I was kind of, intrigued, attracted. I think she might have been too. We both happened to be dating other people at the time. So we actually went out on a date that summer, and we were both kind of like, not, it was complicated. We both had other relationships. Like I said, I went off, had no intent to come back to Flexco. She actually studied for a year in London, and her dream that next summer was to travel Europe, right? So she did for about a month, ran out of money. Her dad said, you better come home and get the summer job for the rest of the summer. So she didn't have plans to be back there either. So it was really interesting. We both ended up back at Flexco. Both of our relationships had gone their separate ways at that point. And so we actually started dating that second summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I started working there full time. She ended up, she was a high school English teacher. So she ended up, kind of pursuing her career. But we kept dating and got married 2 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was meant to be.
Yeah. I think so.
How kind of you to volunteer to go to the fax machine so often.
Took the bullet.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
So that got you into before we expand upon Tom and Flexco. Tell me about Flexco. I've been reeling in an audience that isn't all just digest belting and what we do with it, but we got to fasten it too.
Yeah. So Flexco was known for the mechanical fasteners that connect the ends of conveyor belts, heavy duty belts, light duty belts. We started our business with a mechanical fastener to connect rawhide rubber power transmission belts that used to run on the old factories that all ran off a single line shaft. And so that was the original product, which we still make today. Product life cycle of 117 years, not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. The company was started in 1907 in a little shop in downtown Chicago, literally like a block from where the Willis Tower exists today.
Okay.
Those were all small industrial shops that existed in the early 1900s. And so that's how the business started. And then as conveyor belts, rubber, fabric, cotton at that time became popular in heavy-duty belting in the early 1920s, we actually started designing fasteners for heavy-duty conveyor belts. So we did light-duty power transmission, heavy-duty, and then as light-duty conveyor belts became more popular, we expanded into a variety of products there too. So we started out with fasteners. Now really our business is about providing solutions that help conveyors run more productively, help maintenance people who work on conveyors work more safely. That's really what Flexco is all about.
Okay. Well told. I can vouch for that. Okay, so let's continue on Tom at Flexco.
Yeah.
Because now you're back and you're working on engineering different products. And I know that you don't what was it you said earlier? And I'm sorry, I've spoken last time about how we have an interview before the interview, but you said something in regards to you being an engineer.
I describe myself as a recovering engineer.
A recovering engineer, okay.
I remember sitting in some of my engineering classes when I was getting my undergrad degree and looking around thinking, all these smart people. I am a misfit here because I was not a very diligent student. I worked my way through college actually managing a campus bar.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine my study habits suffered a bit.
Yeah.
But my social calendar was great. So so I survived. Thank God they don't put your grade point average on your diploma.
Oh, wow.
So that was a plus for me. And while I started on sort of the technical side of Flexco, it became pretty clear to me that Flexco is a sales, marketing, customer-driven company. And so I really wanted to get outside and be more customer-facing. So after a few years of working inside, I went back at night and got my MBA, and an opportunity came up for me to move out to a sales territory for Flexco. So in the U.S. and Canada, Flexco currently has about 35 people who manage our distribution relationships, go call on end users, create demand for Flexco products. We call them our territory managers. That's our sales team. And so I actually had an opportunity to live in upstate New York and just outside of Syracuse. And I covered New York and New Jersey for Flexco, selling products, calling on cement plants and bakeries and fruit juice producers and really everything. So that was my opportunity to really grow into the sales and marketing part of our company. It was 1998. I did it for 3 years. I actually remember before I went out, I remember looking at our exec team at that time, and it was this group of, people, mostly men who were 60 years old. And I'm thinking, 5 years, all these guys are going to retire.
If they're smart.
Yeah, and they were, but a great opportunity. I was probably 26, 27 at the time, and so got my MBA, went out and did the sales job for 3 years, and then got asked to come back because that group had started retiring. So then really opportunities just opened up for me. Flexco is a global company, so I started traveling not just in the U.S. but globally, and working with our subsidiaries in around the world. That led me to starting up a couple of our subsidiaries in China, in South America. I was involved in India.
Oh, wow.
So, really kind of building a brick and mortar Flexco presence in those countries, a local sales team, a local warehouse, fabrication shop. And it was kind of fun.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's obviously a language barrier along the way and trying to get help through other people.
I learned how to order beer and find a bathroom in multiple languages. So. My claim to fame.
Bare essentials. What about the bathroom? Yeah. Oh, my goodness. That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, even in your time in New York, that was all new territory, new, get to know where you're selling, where you're driving to, let alone where you're selling.
Yep. Fortunately, I had a couple very experienced sales men who helped me. Like they worked in the adjacent territories, so they gave me some maps and told me, kind of helped me out. I traveled with them for the first couple of weeks and sort of saw what they did and figured out, I can do this. And so you learn the distributors in the territory, start building relationships with them, and then you start learning about the industries that exist and the end users, and you just start getting after it.
Yeah, but now you're on a global scale. I mean, you probably needed your share of translation and a local set of boots on the ground. It could almost do both, but
yeah.
That's fascinating, though. I mean, to spread the brand, you gotta set something up, and
the formula is not really any different elsewhere in the world than it is in the U.S. And Flexco's been in business for now 115 years. It's about dealing with people. It's about building relationships and trust and being a partner. Our company talks about being a really true partner with our end users and our distributors, working shoulder to shoulder with them. And it's no different in those other countries. There's nuances, but trust. Building a relationship where people can rely on you, delivering on what you promise, it works the same everywhere in the world.
Yeah. Well, I think you've listened to a couple of my podcasts already of people. People like talking about trust, and I love that because why would you want to represent anything differently, And it all builds off of that. So I'll keep sharing that one over and over again. So you came back after doing some of those adventures, and now you're starting to climb different rungs as some of these older gentlemen or older folks involved in the business are stepping away. That happened quick.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
I was young. I think there was probably a lot of people looking at me like, where did he come from, and what gives him the I guess the credibility to do those roles. But I did have some people who trusted me and who were good mentors for me in Flexco, and I can't thank them enough. But they believed in me. It was really they saw maybe something that a quality I had, and they just encouraged me, and they listened to my questions and complaints, and helped me grow very quickly. So I was given a lot of responsibility at that time, and you just, opportunities come and you just got to take them and run with them. And sometimes it's a little bit of fake it till you make it. But you also have to back it up with just hard work and credibility, and really trust with customers and distributors, trust with the employees that you're hiring and asking them to do jobs and training them on what they need to do. And it's been a fantastic experience. 32 years I've been with Flex.
32 years.
32 years now, and it's. I told the story about my wife. I mean, it's given me a career. It's given my family, opportunities beyond our wildest dreams, and it's been a really. Flexco is an amazing company with an amazing culture, and I was just fortunate enough to be at the right place at the right time to experience that. And now I have the responsibility and really opportunity to extend that, to share that with every new employee who walks in our door. And that's a really big honor for me. That's
awesome, because you're a good ambassador for it, Tom. I mean, I choose not to use colorful metaphors in this podcast, so I'll leave one of them out. But and take this the right way, please. But you're a sweetheart of our industry, because you're just very approachable. You bring people together, and I've watched that, and that's with a very kind grace. So I cherish that you're an ambassador for our industry. Thank you.
Those are very kind words. I appreciate it.
Well deserved. Sorry, I always stare back at I don't want to get derailed for too long. So you've educated us about Flexco. You shared your climb there, and boy, I'm hearing similarities. And I was sharing this a little bit because if I didn't join my family business and climb rungs and stay on for 29 years myself, I wouldn't have met my wife. So there's some rewarding connections wherever you may find them, and we can discuss later, because our beginnings were a lot like you and Carrie. That's wonderful. Tell us about NIBA. When did you get introduced to that in your career?
So when I moved back to Chicago from working a sales territory in upstate New York, it was 2001, and I vividly remember coming back. I moved back in July, and I was actually supposed to go to the convention that September, which was going to be San Antonio, and it got canceled because it was 2 weeks after 9/11.
Yeah.
Right. And so that didn't happen. And the first convention I went to after that was Nashville. And I remember, because the tradition at NIBA is, and we can talk about the history and the origins of the current iteration NIBA, but Flexco always had the opportunity to host an opening day when people were arriving, host a hospitality suite. And I remember the giveaway that year was a CD of patriotic songs. It was the year after 9/11. There was a lot of certainly a lot of patriotism.
Very appropriate.
Yeah. And so that was the first NIBA I officially attended, was 2002, and just kept going back. My responsibilities included sales and sales management, distributor interactions. I always loved being close to our customers. And so that's always the perfect venue to do it. You literally make 100 sales calls in the course of 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, where are they going to go?
Captive audience.
And they're coming for that CD. So. No, I love that. You guys are always kind of the leadoff hitter when it comes to that too. And it's always very refreshing to go, oh, here we go. And with the right crew to be sending us into this is great.
So do you want to know how that started?
I do.
So the version of the story, as I understand it, NIBA, actually, the earlier iteration was a group called NILA, the National Industrial Leather Association, leather power transmission belts.
Yes.
And in the years, I think it was probably the 50s, 60s, industry was changing. Leather belts were going out of they just weren't being used anymore for power transmission. And the folks who were involved in NILA said their businesses were changing, and they wanted to get together. They wanted to continue to get together, but they needed to figure out a different way to do it, a different group, a different format, a different reason to be together. And so some key people in the industry, some key distributors, and a few manufacturers got together. Everybody flew into Chicago, and they rented a hotel for a couple days and said, "Hey, how do we reset this organization?" So that was really the genesis of the current iteration of NIBA. And I don't remember the exact year. It must have been the 60s or 70s that happened. Because the guy who was president of Flexco at the time, a guy named Al Gladding, was very instrumental in pulling that group together. He had a lot of relationships, a great networker. Al, if you knew Al, he was just a bundle of energy, and he knew everybody in the industry. He just knew how to really pull people together. And so they organized the first meeting in Chicago. They said, "Wow, this is good. We got to keep doing this. Go talk to 3 friends and bring them to the next one." And they did that. And Al, in a way only Al Gladding can, actually, like, he would organize, like, he'd go to the liquor store before they got together and get a few bottles of whatever. And that was kind of social time, right? And so he would literally be like the social coordinator for that group when they got together. And it would always start with let's get together and have a few drinks, and then we're going to talk about the industry and talk about business. Yeah. That's how NIBA started. And that tradition of social time, of friendship, of camaraderie, whether you're a competitor or a collaborator, that's how NIBA started. And that's the amazing part for me, is that there's still a huge element of that culture within NIBA today. You go to the convention.
Oh, you said it. I cherish it.
Yeah, it's great friendships over the course of decades. People get together, and whether you're a competitor or a collaborator, a manufacturer, distributor, it's just a great environment. I mean, there's a friendship and a true care for each other that exists within that group that I've never seen it in any other industry group that I've participated in. PTDA, there's a lot of great networking, a lot of great relationships, but it's a different environment than the culture that exists within the NIBA group.
Well, yeah, it's like you said it. I don't know how well I can build off of that, but I mean, it's very niche, obviously. Belting people. Paul Bosserman said in my last interview, if you learn to do that, you can really take it places because you're so sought after, because it's so exclusive. I mean, you can't get a technician to be a belt technician very easily. It takes a lot of training, and so enter our group and the camaraderie of meeting and getting to talk to people and share war stories with one another. I find it so rewarding. I banter with people I don't buy a stitch from, and they should be trying to sell to me better perhaps, but like, you can't wait to see one another and bounce things off of and see how they're doing. And, even for the sake of non-business, it's very pleasurable, but there's a lot being resolved especially for Flexco, when you can pull these people together in a room, it's great networking. And the encouragement's there by a lot of elder statesmen who've been at NIBA for a long time you really should be a participant, in some level, whether you go into the executive committees or something like that, sure. But, just make sure you're sticking your nose into these different times and meetings and settings to make yourself a part of it, because it's tremendously rewarding.
And that's exactly how, like, my interaction with NIBA just continued and grew. It was, seeing that environment, starting to build the friendships, and then saying, hey, I want to be part of the committee work, and I want to be part of the planning. And so I got involved in committees and moved from one committee to the next. And pretty soon, I ended up on the marketing committee when we redid the website many years ago. And it was a big project. You invest a lot of your personal time in it, but it's what a great experience. And you build just such deep relationships. And then at a committee level, friendships with these people that you see now a few times a year. and you have great experiences. You see some great, hotels, resorts, places around the country. And it's just, that just kind of snowballs. And I guess I got the attention of a couple people at some point, and they said, hey, we think he's got leadership potential, and they asked me to be part of the executive committee. And so, I served my 5 years and was president in 2014, and what a fantastic experience that was.
Yeah. I remember that year. Weren't we down in California? We were in Palm Springs.
So we did a
oh no, we were in Seattle.
Yeah.
My bad.
Seattle was my year, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did some strategic planning sessions before that. Those are always fun. I think, at that time, I think we did it every 3 or 4 years, and it was a kind of a mix of new people and committee members, and you got off site for a few days, and boy, had some fun in Nashville was my first one.
Yeah.
Did one in North Carolina, did one in California on the Central Coast, and yeah, those are also just great times.
That's cool. So, okay, so you climbed all the way to the top rung. You got to be president for a year, and then usually there's a step away or a firm step away for some. You haven't stepped away very strongly. I see you pretty involved still. Is that accurate?
Yes and no. So, the commitment to be a NIBA president is 5 years. It's 4 years. Your fourth year, you're the president. The fifth year, you're immediate past president. And the only responsibility, really, of most immediate past presidents, unless there's a burning issue or a big project, is you're the one who organizes a committee to nominate the next incoming exec member.
Okay.
And so it's, you really do step away from like the deep involvement in all the inner workings of the exec committee when you're immediate past president. And for me, I wanted to step away and not continue to work on committees. And it was a very intentional decision because I think I wanted to make sure that there were open spaces for new blood, younger people. Somebody 10 years prior had opened the door for me. Somebody said, hey, you ought to be on a committee, or we want you on a committee. And I think at that time, I'll tell you who it was. It was Al Bono.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Al was running his own company, King Energy, out in Denver, and invited me to be on the committee and opened the door for me. And there were a couple other names that come to mind: Don Garner, Bruce Steelman. Those guys, like the people early in my career at Flexco, those folks saw something in me and encouraged me, invited me, opened up the door. And so, when I was done with as president and immediate past president, I wanted to just encourage others who hadn't been involved, who might be new to the industry, who might have been their first convention, to get involved. So that's the work I do. It's not official for NIBA, but it's really just trying to encourage people to get in those committees, to build those relationships, to have an experience that was half as good as the awesome experience I had doing it.
Yeah. Good on you. So you're a NIBA pimp, or no? I'm sure there's a better term for it. Never
thought of it that way.
Sorry, folks. I always love injecting levity in this, and no, I that is your yes and no to answer to the question, because I see you involved, but certainly on a promotional level of your own, that it's not hard hearing it from you. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the other part of it for me is because I travel probably mostly outside of the U.S. It's finding other distributors, finding other manufacturers in the places that I travel, and encouraging them to be a part of it. And it's tough. It's a big commitment. It's a big commitment for a U.S.-based or Canadian-based distributor or manufacturer to be a part of it. When you're talking about international airfare and the time away and the jet lag and all that stuff, that for somebody who's flying in from Europe or South America or Asia, those folks make a huge commitment. So I've always wanted to make sure that we welcome them, that we make a place for them, because they just make NIBA a richer experience for everybody.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I've heard about that, because it's, it's not just the fun time in September, it's the build up to that. And that does take some time and sacrifice. For smaller business, I could speak to that. That probably isn't always easy to cut and run.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, obviously the rewards are still there. You wouldn't still be doing this. This is What do you see coming? What keeps the juices flowing, Tom?
It's for me, it's a combination of just renewing the great friendships I've built the last 20 years. Like the friendship we have. I mean, it's just continue to revisit that, because we all get busy with our lives between business and family and the issues of the day. And NIBA is always a great sort of release, reset, revisiting relationships that sometimes you just get too busy to maintain. And so it always, it creates an opportunity to do that, which I love. And for me, the other part of it is just building that new friendship, somebody who you haven't met, whether it's at a first timers event or one of the dinners where you choose to sit with a table that I don't know anybody and just start the conversation, because we have so much in common, industries, interests. It's easy to start the conversation. So, to me, it's such a combination. As much as I appreciate enjoy building, the past relationships and refreshing those, I always love it when I walk out of NIBA with one or two new business cards and I can follow up with those folks after. And it's that fresh relationship. And like people did for me, pulling them in and saying, hey, join the committee, get involved, and seeing that flourish and seeing those people grow. To me, that's the greatest reward.
Yeah. Well, and you guys back one too. Speaking of fresh, because the next gen crowd, because we're all, it's not just an old boys club. We're trying to reel the kids into it too, and make their voice heard, but also let them know that they have a voice to be heard. And Flexco's always sponsored that. I'm not going to throw other people under the bus in this conversation, but I'll throw myself under. I kept sneaking into that as long as you guys would let me. No one carded me. So I'm like, I'm 40 now. Were they going to let me in? And I'm 42 now. Are they going to let me in? But it was so stinking rewarding. I saw the merit in what was being set up there to lay the groundwork with those that are coming up, because the obvious stands, they are the next generation of what's going to be handed. Yeah.
And if we want NIBA to continue and be healthy, we have to continue to pull in new people, fresh ideas, young people. They're our future. Yeah. And so I'll tell you, the next gen group, 40-ish. And the other one that I'm really proud of is, and this started probably 5 years ago. I probably have the date wrong, but it's Women in NIBA. There's always been a great core group of women in our industry. And I think it was 5-ish years ago, NIBA started committing more. We got some sponsorship. Actually, Flexco pitched in and helped sponsor with a couple other committees. But to try to build that community with the women of our industry, they welcome and open the spouses of the males that participate in NIBA, but really to try to build that stronger community. And it's been so gratifying to see that group grow and really get a life of its own. So that's another really great sort of subgroup of NIBA.
Oh, that's awesome. Because, shame on me for speaking to it as an old boys club, but that's shattering it, and rightfully so, because there are some... Even under the House of Empire, you just got to meet some of my staff, and I've got some very strong players myself. So to see that thrive in our industry, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're a woman or man. Step in and get her done, and there are people stepping in and getting it done.
Yep.
Yeah, that's vital. Well, and let me speak to this too, because when that crummy time took place of COVID and what a big question mark it was going into that event, and for any industry, for any market, for what New Wave Media is doing, Empire, Rubber, Flexco, it was a big question mark. And I remember you and others getting involved to pull our community together, and here we are getting to know Zoom and things like that. But it was extremely comforting. It was a good comfort, and you were part of that action. Yep. And I had somebody to speak to me about that recently when I was telling him I was going to be sitting down with you, Tom. So I want to make sure I spoke to that, because that was really cool, because, here we're all feeling off to the side going, what's coming? How do I keep this afloat? And to know that we could bounce off one another, just like we do selling the stuff, how to show up for the stuff was vital, and a vital time, because at least we didn't have to feel alone in it. We were all trying to circumnavigate that weird world. world at that time, and how vital, how important that you were part of that action.
Well,
Thank
thanks.
you. Yeah.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun. It was actually therapeutic for me. I think we were all struggling with a lot of loneliness, like just trying to figure out how to keep our businesses going, how to keep our employees safe and healthy. It was a tough time, and I think the ideas of doing some of those Zooms was just great to just try to keep some connection with each other, share information as we knew it at the time, and there's something about at least seeing a familiar face, even if it's on the screen, but just being able to share the stories. It was we couldn't do a lot, but that was one small thing that we could do to keep that community together. And I think it helped create the bridge to, just getting beyond COVID, getting beyond that time period, and really being able to get back together in person. Yeah,
very much so. Because I missed everybody, damn it.
Me too.
We got back.
Yep.
All right, more questions I have, but as I'm thinking about your timeline, you've been doing Morse code, Tom. So I want to make sure I reach back in, because yes, you got married, but you're a father too. You've got 2 boys. What are they doing?
2 sons. Yeah, I'm very proud of them. Luke, my older son, is in his 4th year studying architectural engineering at the University of Cincinnati. Go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats.
And my younger son, Peter, is 20 years old, and he just finished his 2nd year at the University of Washington. Go Dogs.
I have a hard time with that one, but okay.
I got my purple shirt on. Got some strange looks when I flew into Portland Airport.
Oh, as you would expect. Good on you. Good on you representing him. That's awesome. Well, yeah, family man. I'm going to start turning you upside down. So what is fun for Tom when you are not working?
Wow. I do really love spending time with my sons, because they're just different personalities, and I get so gratified seeing them become young men and seeing them figure out their path, and hopefully in maybe some small way I'm giving them advice that helps them do that. I don't know that they believe that, but but it's now that they're becoming adults, it really gets fun. My wife and I really love college football. We're both college football fans, and they've both had very unique experiences. Both of their schools went to the college football playoffs their sophomore year, last year with Washington, 2 years or 3 years ago with University of Cincinnati. So we've traveled to bowl games with them. I mean, we just had fun experiences around that. And so the other thing I really enjoy is my wife's family has had a cottage on a lake up in northern Wisconsin since the 1950s.
Oh, wow.
And my father-in-law grew up spending summers on the lake. My wife grew up spending summers on the lake, and as our sons grew up, my wife would go up there for a couple months at a time, and they would spend time up there, and I would sneak up on the weekends, take a couple weeks off during summer, and have time up there too. So that's kind of our collecting point. That's our happy place.
Yeah.
It is just far away from anything. It's about a 6-hour drive from Chicago. It is quiet. There's not much to do other than be in the water. We all water ski, wake surf, just have a great time. And it's a couple weeks that we cherish together. So so that's always a fun part of our summer. And it gets even more fun when we share it with friends, when our sons bring up friends. And so it gets to, you kind of share those beautiful places, special places in the world with other people that just make it all better.
Oh, that's awesome.
A lot of great memories up there.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I was always a tent camper to do it. We would go rough it, and we'd spend 8 nights in the woods, but we'd have ski boat anchored offshore, ready to go play in the mornings. And it was so great to reel in the youth and parents and whomever, just to shut the world off and enjoy those experiences together. Yeah, that's rewarding.
Absolutely.
Tom, what is something not a lot of people know about you?
Oh boy. That's a good question. I don't know. People realize I come from a big family. I'm a pretty open book.
Yeah? You're not off in the corner painting little figurines, pewter figurines and like no.
War figures. I'm not a model train guy. I'm no, I don't know.
No? Pretty open book and grabbing a hold of people and experiences, huh?
Yeah, I mean, working in the industry and just building relationships. I love to travel. I mean, I've had the opportunity to travel for work, so I really love seeing other cultures and experiencing them. And you know, the one thing I've learned as I've traveled around is you know, we're all way more alike than we are different. You know, different countries, different cultures, different ways of doing things, but we're a lot more alike than different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's rewarding to know.
Yeah.
I could be a stranger in a strange land with that comfort behind. Okay, so I always grab a question from left field, and this one's yours. If you had a time machine, what historical event would you want to see and why?
Whoa, that's an excellent question. Oh, you know, I have a special affinity and respect for that period around World War II, and I think because I'm very connected through my dad's experience. He was in the Navy in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
And, you know, today of all days, today happens to be the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Yeah.
You know, that time period was tremendously challenging on a world scale. But it brought some really, it brought people together, brought Americans together, brought Americans and our European counterparts together. It forged relations and alliances that last today. And you know, it brought out, while it brought out sometimes the worst in some people, it also brought out the best in some people. So, I mean, that time period really fascinates me because it was such a just an interesting period in our history, in our world history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to speak to that one, it'd probably be a brutal thing to witness, you know, depending, maybe you'd want to be seeing the successes of it where they're all waving banners in the street and that sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, how rewarding. Then you're a historical buff, obviously. Yeah. And shame on me, I don't pick up many books, but I do really cherish going into those series of Band of Brothers and the Pacific. And the most recent one, where we were watching the air campaign. Wonderful. I mean, just to see humanity pull together to fight a tremendous evil, you know? Yeah. And it's very rewarding that they're capturing and delivering it for a modern audience and with the flair that you'd want, and a lot of respects too of how delivering the information accurately. Well, we talk about that historical period and the challenges that came along with it. It's life, it's business. It's, you know, you have to go through some really hard times and struggle through those and deal with the ugly parts of whether it's running a business, starting a family. We all go through those difficult times. And the question is, like, what's the attitude that we approach those challenges? What's the attitude that we bring to it? And then how do we rise above? How do we get through it? How do we help others get through it? It's, that's always the kind of the parallel of life is, you know, whether it's war or, you know, dealing with diapers with your newborn at 2 a.m. When you haven't slept in about 3 days. I mean, that can be pretty ugly too. But really the point is, like, just, you know, banding together, whether it's with your spouse, your family, the folks you have on your team at work. It's how can we pull them together and be better tomorrow, better the next month than we are today. I'm swimming in thought as you're delivering that. That's very well stated, because there are the times where you're just, you know, caught swimming through it, trying to figure it out. And it is, you know, the challenge of life, challenge of work, challenge of whatever label you want to put on. It is life, I guess, no matter what the vein is. But I try to, I guess I'm in the thick of that myself a little bit, because we're a little shorthanded in my work, and I'm grabbing the reins in a different department to try to poke in and see what I can do to help and keep my head above water along the way, you know. But I know that it's just a moment in time and things will catch back up and we'll be good. But I like it because it's hard to lead a company and and stay away from kind of a boots on the ground, of what's going on. And so to pulse it with you today. Again, this is the interview before the interview, but you asked some very good questions from the heart on in representing Flexco and what can Flexco do to better your situation too. So here we're trying to go through our the daily struggles of getting the work done. And here you're coming along going, well, maybe we can better that. And that's fantastic. There's not a lot of businesses out there that do it that way. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't have the right representation behind it helping either. So that's vital.
We talk a lot about in our company, and I think it's, if you sort of think of the character that you want to embody yourself, the character that you want to see your kids recognize and exhibit. It's the same thing with our company, the character that we want our people to exhibit, the culture that we want to build, the behaviors that we want to observe in them. And we talk a lot at Flexco about like our persona, like how we want our customers to view us. And you're talking about it, being hands-on, being expert, being trusted, those characteristics that we admire in people that we gravitate towards. Those are practicable habits. Those are learnable habits. Those are habits that we can adopt. And in hard times and in good times, I mean, you have to live that persona. And so we do talk a lot about that in our company. Like, here's what we think is going to be our recipe for success. Let's learn how to do that, and let's do it over and over and over. Let's get better at it. And I think that makes us I'd like to think a unique and successful company.
Nice. You getting better?
We're working on it. Every day we're working on it.
That's good. Move the needle, right?
Always opportunities to improve.
Always opportunities. Yeah. 99% chance we're there, right? Well, Tom, thank you. I really appreciate this. This is fun. I knew it would be. I'm grateful you came all this way, not just for me, and I know that, but for our audience too. I've cherished the relationship that we've had and getting to know you over the years. One thing I before we depart, that I wanted to speak to is the Flexco Distributor Advisory Council. You let this young punk kid on it years ago, and that was my first step into anything in our industry of getting together with a collective group like we do at NIBA. And for those who aren't familiar with distributor advisory councils, Flexco is gracious enough to invite select distributors of theirs, and you guys still do this, correct?
We do.
Good, because it's so vital, yep. And you guys know that. But it was tremendously rewarding to hear on the battlefront of others and like businesses doing what they do, bigger businesses and Empire, like businesses, maybe even smaller ones, and you guys fed from that. You guys are taking notes all the way through because we're sharing war stories. What would make you a better success? Help us to be a better success. All good. And then you put me on a Segway in the middle of Chicago. That was fun.
And didn't kill you.
And I tried to kill myself at the end and got it stopped. But yeah, and then go out and have those socials and get to know people. Now I bounce through NIBA with some of those individuals, you and other folks at Flexco, and those other individuals that I sat down with to talk, war stories and improvements and all those things that are good juices, good things to make improvements, because, always be on the improvement there.
Another opportunity, I mean, that's just another forum to build those friendships, build those relationships that last a lifetime. And I'll tell you a funny story about that.
Yeah.
Empire has been a distributor of Flexco since 1951.
Yes, I do know that.
And so it's coming up on 75 years. 73. Gosh. So we'll have to celebrate a special milestone in another couple of years. But your father, Ed, was one of the first Distributor Advisory Council members for Flexco when we started that program, and it must have been in the 70s. He was one of the first.
Oh, wow.
And he did a stint, I think it was probably 3 or 4 years, and then we rotate people through and make sure we sort of open up the door to new ideas and lots of different distributors. And I know one of my predecessors actually asked him to come back and do another stint on it. And your father had the foresight to say, I think this would really be a great opportunity for my son. And so we approached you. So that's actually, it's that sort of passing the baton, passing the torch, helping, opening up the door to let you step forward. And it was a great experience for me to be able to meet you. But that's just continuing to build the relationship. So what can we do? We just got to keep opening the door for the next generation, the new people, welcome them in, help them, mentor them. And that's what will keep our company strong. That's what will keep our industry strong. That's what will keep our economy strong.
Yeah.
That's our responsibility.
You're doing a good job.
Working on it every day.
99% sure. Well, thank you. Thanks for that. That's a good tip of the cap to my old man. He was a good, he helped Empire roll for many a year, and
he's a great man, man.
Yeah. Thank you for that. He truly is. And he took over for a great man who I didn't get to know, but he passed away when my dad was real young at 27, and boy, he jumped in and figured it out and held on for 56 years. So like I said, we threw a 50-year party because we didn't believe he would retire, and sure enough, he did. And I'm glad. He deserves the quiet life and not trying to figure out where the next belt's going to go tomorrow. I'll help do that. But
the company's in great hands with you.
Thank you. Well, good people at Flexco that help your cause too. So, well, we killed a perfectly good hour together, Tom.
Success.
Heck yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you coming out.
Likewise. Thanks. I'm honored that you would ask me, and it's really been a lot of fun.
Good.
Really been a lot of fun.
Well, it ain't done. We'll get back together again.
All right.
Well, with that, I want to thank my audience for taking this in. I want to thank George Padilla and New Wave Studios for filming this, recording this, editing this, all the things that I can't do. And we're going to come back for more. So stay tuned. Thanks, everybody.